This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Lays it up, lays it in, count that baby, and the foul.
Shaq Diesel, we got some trades going on.
You know it.
Detroit Sports Podcast. Shaq Fu.
Shaq to the fool.
We Shaq to the Fool, baby. You know how I be. Couple days ago, Pistons picked up Toby. They was in it, but they wasn't finished. Messed around, then they got Monty. Not Ellis, ain't talking about Ellis. The whole league jealous, Monty Eunice and Harris. Yo, Stan Van Gundy, raping teams like his name was Kobe.
Yo, look at me, Shaq Diesel. Get out of my face. Hey, Kobe, tell me how donuts taste.
Kobe. Ladies and gentlemen, we having fun today. I got the Miller High Life in front of me. We're not in person. We got one on the phone, well, two on the phone technically, but man, I kind of think it's good that we were late a couple of weeks, Kev, because whoa, it's Toby Harris, Donuts Monty Eunice, Big Marcus Thornton. What's going on, Kev?
Amazing trade deadline once again. First, we probably should apologize to the people that, we weren't able to get one out earlier this month. We had a death in the family, and then you got sick, so just got a little crazy. But now we're here, so we're going to go ahead and knock it out the park. Back to what really happened. This is a crazy trade deadline once again. Stan Van Gundy, him and Jeff Bowers, man, they just proven to be maestros at the deadline, man.
Yep.
I tell you.
I'm gonna start calling them the 1-2 combo, man. They pretty much, free agency. They're like, screw free agency. We're gonna force these guys to be on the team, and then we're gonna sign them long term. I love what they're doing. So we got plenty to talk about. Obviously, Tobias Harris, he had a pretty good first game. The Pistons didn't play good, but he looked good as advertised. He did about what we expect him to do. So we're gonna talk about that. The All-Star Weekend was pretty cool, man. This is one of the better ones with Kobe, with the dunk contest. We're going to talk about that. We got a little Pistons spin, pretty much creating your dream team. The Pistons, 5 Pistons. It could be any era, positions 1 through 5. So we're going to have that going on. We got the lie detector, and then we're going to close it out with expectations for the team. As always, this is the Count That Baby in the Foul podcast, Pistons podcast for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. That's where we're found. If you got iTunes, subscribe. If you got Android, subscribe on Podbay. We do a show. It's supposed to be, the first Saturday of every month. This Saturday we fell short, or the past 2 Saturdays, like Kevin said. We had some personal things going on. I had it coming out of both ends at one point, which wasn't good.
A little TMI right there, buddy.
Hey, man, we got to let the people know, man.
That's true.
Full disclosure on the podcast. And like you said, a couple weeks before that, we had a death in the family. But we're back. We're rolling. And, the good thing about it, 2 good things. Number one, this is probably the best time to be doing a podcast with all the trades. And so next year, we will definitely schedule ourselves to where we'll do a podcast after the trade deadline because, the way Van Gundy rolls, we could very well be picking up a couple of big players or shipping some players away. And then the other good thing about it is, although we missed a couple of weeks, we're going to be back the first Saturday in March. So you guys get to hear our beautiful voices in about 2 or 3 weeks. Kevin, let's start off with the big one. Tobias Harris, Toby, you know how I be. What went through your mind? What was the first thing? I'm not putting this on par with Rasheed, but just to give you a context, sometimes when something big hits, when big player acquisitions hit, you kind of know where you are. For example, when Rasheed Wallace came, I was going to Wayne State, and this was before like Twitter and everything was blowing up. It's 2004, and I'm in my calculus class, and I was getting updates from a buddy of mine. I'm like, hey, man, anything happens. And so he sent me the text message that Rasheed was there, and the rest of the day was over. Every guy in the class, including the teacher's aide who was a student, we're all in the corner. I'm getting updates on my phone. So that's where I was. When the Tigers picked up Miguel Cabrera, It was simple. It was in the middle of winter. I remember I was in my bedroom just kind of chilling. The MLB Network was kind of new. I was watching it because it was, the winter meetings and all that going on. That's when trades and stuff happened. And it was unexpected, out of nowhere, bam, Tigers acquire Miguel Cabrera and Dontrell Willis. And so you kind of always know where you are when big things happen. This one is kind of recent. So, Kev, what was the scoop for Tobias Harris when you first heard it? Where were you and what went through your mind?
When I actually first heard it, I was at work. I was definitely at work.
Did you do a cartwheel?
Yeah, I wanted to. But if you remember, we were on a fantasy basketball chat, too.
Yes.
And actually, Jake broke it to us first.
Jake.
He just said, he was like, hey, man, I think it just said that Pistons just traded for Tobias Harris. I'm like, wait, what? No, that can't be true. Then I just clicked on free.com, and there it was. And I was like, oh, my goodness. Wow, just ultimate home run. Home run. That's the best way I can put it. I'll definitely remember where I was, what I was doing when that one went down. And based on how we played today, that really just shows and solidifies that this was definitely a home run move.
Yeah, man, it really shows how much we kind of need someone like that, because for me, and we're going to talk about this game in a second, Andre Drummond, just not impactful enough for me. Even sometimes when you look at the stat line, you see 16 and 13 in games like that. Sometimes you see that, but it's not impactful. And so a guy like Tobias, definitely is going to be someone that we can use. I was off. That was a Wednesday, right, Kev, when the trade went down?
Tuesday.
That was a Tuesday. Okay. So I was feeling even worse. Monday was the absolute worst. Tuesday was pretty bad. And I've been off work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I missed work all of those days. And like you said, I was on the chat line or whatever. I sound old calling it a chat line, but whatever.
No.
I was on the internet. I was on the chat line, Kev, and email came through.
We were in the chat room.
I was on American Online, and but no, I was on the group meet, and I was kind of sleep halfway up because I was really sick, and that's when I saw it. I was definitely happy. Today really showed why we can use a guy like that. And, I kind of like one comparison that Greg Kelser made today that I didn't really think about. And it's not so much he's the exact same player because they have some differences. The way he plays, it's like an effortless thing. It's decisive, but it's effortless. He said Danny Granger. I'm like, man, the way Danny Granger, the way Danny Granger operated, man, was kind of like effortless. He made it look easy. He was real smooth. And I'm like, you know what, Kelser, I like that comparison, man. He's a little bit bigger. He's more of a 3-4. And Granger kind of, in today's NBA, he's like a 3-4. But I like that comparison. A guy that, like you said, he's a bona fide 20-point scorer. If given opportunity, I think he will get that opportunity. I mean, first game, right off the bat, 30 minutes, 21 points, 9 of 12 from the field. And you saw an array of ways in which he scored. I mean, hitting the 3-point shot, slashing, the pull-up, post-game. It's exciting, isn't it, Kev?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, he just showed you the full gauntlet of all the different aspects, all the different ways you want to see your guy being able to operate and be able to impact the game. And, I was watching it. That's the main thing I was thinking. I was like, man, he's really giving you a variety. He had putbacks. He had, drives to the hole, show us the little floater. Like you said, show us the post-game. First shot of the game was a three-pointer, all net. I mean, he just showed you everything that you could possibly think of. So I knew that he was a really good player. I watched him for a while. I knew that he was versatile, but I think a lot of what he does kind of got what's the word for it? It was almost not hidden, but just you weren't able to see it as much when he was on Orlando.
Right.
Because Orlando,
especially this year under Skiles.
Yeah, exactly. Because Skiles, that's one thing he's known for is hampering people on offense. He's a defensive-minded coach, and he's really kind of a master, so to speak. So he'll kind of limit guys' game offensively, and then especially with the crazy deep rotation that Orlando had for their forward spots. So now here it's much more open. He doesn't have to worry about fighting for minutes or getting his minutes staggered. I don't think anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe next game or a game after we see him in the start lineup, just based on how well he played today, how well he was able to just come in and just fit right in. And like, unfortunately, the rest of the guys play like crap. But you just thought it was just like seamless. And I just really like seeing him just be able to, like, you said, just real smooth, real decisive with his moves. It was like he got the ball, okay, pull up jumper, okay, back down, fade away, okay, all right, gonna go to the hole, gonna go to the hole, get a little floater, go off glass, all those different things. Just showed you the full gauntlet, and I just think this guy's gonna be awesome here.
Yep, I agree. Now the other thing, just from watching this game, it made me, because he's a little bit bigger, and I was like, man, for a 3, how much? If we had to start him at the 3, we had to play him heavy minutes at the 3. The way he moved off the ball and the way he slashed, I felt a little bit. I felt even more comfortable if he plays heavy minutes, even at the small forward position. Because I was starting to wonder, sometimes guys kind of outgrow a position. When he came into the league, he was definitely a 3, 4, and as you get older, you pick up a few pounds. You're not as fast. I was wondering, man, is he kind of shifting from a tweener to kind of like just a small 4, and that's it? Not from what I saw today, the way he moved. Really like, and everything you said, I agree with. Kind of a stark contrast, too, between Reggie Jackson's debut and Toby's debut. Reggie was so nervous, puking, erratic, and the thing is, they're both gamers. That's what and Van Gundy's attacking a certain type of player in terms of skill, but also mindset. Toby's a gamer. Reggie's a gamer. Their first game approach was just different, though. This guy was smooth. He was calm. And here's the thing we all love. When you make a trade like this, Jennings, Irsan, they definitely provided, especially Jennings. He had a really good run here, and, we appreciate all that. You really love the fact that he's under contract after this year, 3 more years at about $16 million. $16 million, and that's the thing. When I talk to people, it's like you have to continually shift your mindset on numbers. $16 million sounds like a ton of money. It's still good money, even in today's cap. It's good money, but it's not ridiculous. It's not, whoa, he's making how much? $16 million is very palatable. $16 million for the skill you're going to get from him is a slight bargain to a bargain. And that's a guy that at 22, 23 years old, the next 3 seasons he's under contract, he's only going to get better. And I think Van Gundy is a guy that will use him perfectly. You think about Rashard Lewis, who was that 3-4, a guy that could score in a number of ways. People think of Rashard Lewis and they think of 3-pointers. Rashard had other aspects to his game. He could drive. He had, he had an array of ways he can score. It wasn't the strongest guy, but he had a few little post moves, little fadeaway, and different things like that. I think this is the perfect fit. It's a guy that they have been interested in, just like Monty Eunice, who we're going to talk about in a second. And overall, it gives you a dynamic that you don't have. And I think in a pinch, when your team is horrible on offense, this is probably the guy that can bail you out. Reggie can kind of do that. It's good to say now we have 2 guys that can legitimately, when it's a drought, bail you out. Unfortunately, Andre is not that. He gets his points in the groove of the game, when it's given to him, when the time is right, when his hook shot is going, but you can't really force it to him when you really need a bucket. Reggie, you can kind of do that. If we're struggling, he'll go to the hole and make something happen. We got a second guy now with Tobias. What do you think? We think about that too, just in terms of him potentially becoming like the go-to guy on offense as he gets more and more comfortable with the team, Kev.
Yeah, actually, that's what I think he's going to be. Like, after watching the game today, I think he's just going to probably end up being that eventually. Like, Reggie's going to have the ball in his hands, the majority of the time being the point guard. But I think that's one of the problems Reggie's been having. I think it's kind of worn on him physically and mentally as well, just constantly having to be the only playmaker out there on the court. And I think that Tobias is going to take a lot of pressure off of him because, as we know, the Pistons go as Reggie goes right now. But, like, as you were saying, having another guy who has that skill set. And then not only that, like you said, I appreciate, like, he brought out that, he's a gamer. And he has actually a couple different game winners from this year and last year as well. And so now you got 3-4 guys who hit big shots. You got Marcus Morris hits big shots. KCP is a guy who, we've seen him time and time again, late in games, hit big shots. And then you got a closer in Reggie. And now it's like you got another closer in Tobias. So not only do you have him in that role, it's like now it's just changing the whole dynamic of your team. And actually, it was kind of funny. Reggie made a comment about, which I think was kind of a slightly veiled shot at Ersan. where he said that we was talking about Tobias. He said, "Yeah, we know he's going to shoot a shot." So it's like,
right.
Okay, one thing we remember about Ersan is that he was like the king of pump fakes.
Yes, he was.
How many great shots and great looks did he pass up pump faking for no reason? It was like, okay, pump faking is fine if a guy's closing out too close, but it was like so many times he would either just pump fake and drive and do something stupid, or he would just pump fake and have to get a ball back up, or he pump fake, take that step, do that step back, and then shoot a worse shot and miss. It was like, man, if he had just shot the initial shot when you were in your rhythm, then we'd be good to go. So now I think Reggie and I think the Pistons probably were, frustrated by that, and I think he just kind of came out right there in that comment. It was like, whoa, okay, all right. But now, with a guy like Tobias, like you said, he's so decisive that you give it to him, and it's crunch time, he's just going to go. No, you don't have to worry about him pump faking people out of his shoes. He's going to, you give it to him in rhythm, he's going to pull up. He's going to hit the shot.
Yep.
And it's great to have a guy like that. But one thing that we need to keep in mind, though, about this move, kind of a dirty little secret that don't be surprised if we take a small step back this year. This is the type of move where it's going to be a little bit of a tricky fit. Like, he's a really good player for us, but as now with the addition of him and, getting rid of Ersan Ilyasova, it's a thing where everybody's role is going to change slightly. It's going to alter. Everybody has to kind of find their place in the pecking order. And not only that, everybody has to get used to him. He has to get used to everybody else's tendencies. So there's going to be a little learning curve there. And with the East being so jumbled up, I could definitely see us, possibly even missing the playoffs just barely. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully, they work out the kinks and they get, they're good to go in 2-3 games. But I wouldn't be surprised if, this is just like kind of a precursor for the next few games. Maybe lose about 4, 5, 6 straight. Just as we're becoming acclimated to one another. Because if you remember, when Reggie came here last year, we followed that up by losing 10 straight until the team got acclimated. Then they played much better down the stretch. So I can kind of see that type of thing happening with this move, but not to that extent. But with the East being so jumbled up right now, if a 5-6 game losing streak might, put you out of the playoffs for good. But we'll see. Hopefully, these guys are able to, mesh and gel and get together much quicker. But that's just always one thing to keep in mind.
See, I'm not with you on that. I think the only reason that we would struggle is because Steve Blake is getting heavy minutes. I don't think Tobias Harris is going to mess up anyone's flow. Now, with Reggie Jackson last year, it's your point guard. So your offense is ran through him and different things. I think Tobias, just me personally, I think he fits in good enough, and he's so much better than Ilyasova that I don't agree with the step back. The only way that we would is, like I said, with Blake playing that point guard. I mean, it's going to be ugly. Early on Sessions was making him look like a fool, but I mean, it remains to be seen. The beauty of this too, when I heard that we picked up Tobias, I'm like, okay, what did we give up? First thing in my mind, I love Stanley. I'm like, I'm hoping Stanley isn't involved. Tobias is a really good player, okay, and hey. I would have been upset. I wouldn't have liked it. I would have thought it was too much, but I wouldn't have been floored because it's a really good young player, a guy that's already shown he can put up 17, 18 points a game. So the first thing in my mind when I was wondering what we gave up, I'm like, okay, I'm hoping it's not Stanley. And then, I'm like, okay, I'm sure a first round pick. And when I saw that it was just Jennings who was going to be gone after next year, and Ilyasova, who was like, okay, we probably would have picked up his option at $8 million, but whatever. You want to talk about a steal of a trade, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's the second year in a row that Van Gundy is just – he's fleeced teams, man. I think in both instances, yes, it wasn't a good fit for Reggie. It wasn't a good fit for Toby, but you could have gotten more. And, and not trading that first pick kind of leads into our next topic. The fact that he didn't have to – and you know what? I'm willing to bet if Orlando put their foot down and say, okay, yeah, those two players and a first or no deal, I'm almost willing to think Van Gundy would have traded that first as well if Orlando would have went ahead and kind of demanded. And I could be wrong, but I think if Van Gundy's sitting there and like, man, I have an opportunity to get – and he's already proved that he didn't mind trading the first-round pick because he traded it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm willing to think if Van Gundy's looking at this guy, Harris, who he already wanted, and he's got him for 3.5 years, if Orlando just said, I want that first, even if Van Gundy said no at first – I think they could have called his bluff and got that first-round pick out of him. But They didn't, and so it leads us to the next guy. Now, we've been holding hands on Tobias. We've been holding hands and skipping down the road, pretty much in agreement. Now it comes the divide. Now it comes where Donatus, Donuts, Montezunis, Marcus Thornton coming in for a protected first-round pick, and Joel Anthony. I love this trade for so many reasons. Montezunis, another guy that in our little group thing, I always make little jokes that me and Stan Van Gundy are lockstep. And I say that because a lot of different little moves and things he's made, I've said he probably should or would do. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, man, we're lockstep. And so this was a guy that sometimes I'm going to start saying we when I'm talking about Stan Van Gundy and myself. It's a guy that we both liked. It was a guy that, 7'1", can shoot it, decent post game. And we felt like, it's a first-round pick, but especially in this draft class, we're willing to give up a first-round pick to acquire talent. Kev, I know you don't quite agree. Give us your thoughts on the Montezunis, Marcus Thornton trade for Joel Anthony and a protected first round.
All right, so this is my first, real kind of disagreement with Stan here. I mean, I'm still going to swear by and Stan we trust, so I'm going to reserve my judgment, but I kind of have a philosophy when it comes to building a team. And I feel like if you're in a rebuilding phase, which we are, that you never give up a first-round pick for a backup. I just feel like that's I feel like that's kind of counterproductive to what you're doing. That's the type of thing that, if you're one piece away from being a contender, yeah, definitely, you can give up a first-round pick. But I'm thinking you're in a rebuilding mode and you're just, you're still trying to get your cornerstones together. You're trying to get your foundational pieces.
But Kev, we're rebuilding, but you're acting like we're rebuilding like we're the 76ers, where we're about to get a top 3 pick, man. We're rebuilding, but we're at the same time like a playoff contending team, man. How good of a player are you expecting to get at 16?
I mean, it's the thing is with the draft, at that point it's kind of a crapshoot. But as we see, there are so many players. But there's so many players that if you do your homework, you look at San Antonio, they never pick high in the draft, and they always have good players coming through their system. You look at people like, say, a Jimmy Butler or a Michael Redd. Those are guys who went further down in the draft. Tony Parker went, I think, number 22 overall, or maybe it was number 19.
Kevin,
but
those are the exceptions, man. Those aren't that's the exception. That's not the rule.
I wouldn't call it exception because it happens every year.
Here is the rule.
Every year, some franchise player or some really good player goes well outside the lottery. It's like an every year thing.
It's one guy out of the 30 guys picked after 12 or 13, though. So it's like one or two guys out of the. Let's say you got your first 12 picks. So from 13 to, into the 50s with the second round, like one or two guys, man, out of that huge amount of players, I'm willing to say 75% of them is not going to be good as donuts.
Yeah, but the thing is, too, you have to think about is that even at those odds, worst case scenario, or not, I won't say worst case scenario, or more likely is that you at least get a rotation player there. That's one thing we see. So it's like, okay.
That's what Donuts is, but he's a proven rotation player.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So my point is that, you can always get backups. Backups are always available, especially when you're in a rebuild mode. They're not hard to get in free agency. What's hard to get are your foundational cornerstone pieces. So that's what I'm saving my first round picks for, either draft guys like that or to trade for guys like that. And especially it was disappointing to me because of the simple fact that we got two foundational pieces, Reggie Jackson and Tobias Harris, without giving up that first-round pick. So now we give up the first-round pick for backups, and then, as much as I like Donuts, or Montezunis, my issue with him is, he's had chronic back issues. He's had back surgery, hasn't played almost at all this year, and he says he's 100% healthy now, but still – 7-foot guy, back problems, that's scary. And then on top of that, he's a restricted free agent. So even though it's a smaller chance, there's still a chance that he's gone at the end of this year. And even if he's not, maybe he's gone at the end of next year. You never know. Or on top of that, if you keep him, that means you got to pay big money to this guy.
That means he probably played good too, though, man. Now, and here's a couple things to that. You're calling him a backup. I get what you're saying, but you're kind of diminishing what his role will probably be. You're saying he's a backup. Technically, that's true. But he's going to be a guy who's going to get 25 to 30 minutes a night. That's a key contributor on your team. I don't care if he's not starting. He can play the 4, he can play the 5, and the team is so flexible. You can have a lineup where he could potentially start in some scenarios. We could see Tobias at the 3, him at the 4. I don't look at him as just like this backup. I feel like you need a good starting 5, but you need 1 or 2 guys that are really good that you can count on for injuries. 1 or 2 guys that every night, if there are no injuries or foul trouble, will get heavy minutes. The other thing too, man, this is a really weak draft class, Kev. I mean, really weak. You got like Simmons, you got Brandon Ingram, and I'm willing to think that Van Gundy looked at this crop, and by the time you get to the Pistons' potential pick in the first round, at best, you're getting a rotational player. I mean, what, Denzel Valentine? Are we really getting hyped about missing out on him? Or, Karis LeVert? This draft class is pretty bad, man. And I know there are times where later rounds turn out. I think this may be one of the years where nobody after like 12 or 13 really becomes too much, man. Trust me, Monty Eunice he's good, Kev, man. When you see him out there, you will become a believer.
I never said he wasn't good. I just look at it as the way I see it is, okay, you have a very capable, very good backup center that we both love in Aaron Baines. We love him as our backup, right?
Yeah, he's a good backup for sure.
Yeah, very valuable. So now it's like, all right, you got three quality big, centers now. I look at that as more of a luxury where you got this massive hole at backup point guard, So that's the way I'm looking at it. Like, okay, so we used our first round pick to get more of a luxury as opposed to, glaring need. Like our
biggest.
Gonna
play some heavy minutes though, man. He's gonna play some heavy minutes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you play heavy minutes. That's true. But then again, too, those minutes are probably going to diminish when playoff time comes around. As the rotation shorten and the starters' minutes get extended. So I just feel like you could have got a backup who maybe not as good as Monty Eunice, but you could have got a really good backup, and then you could have also addressed your need at backup point guard, especially if you're going to use that. You're going to use that first round pick. There are a lot of good point guards in the NBA right now, and a few of them are going to be free agents. I believe Norris Cole will be a free agent at the end of this year. Maybe I might have seen Mario Chalmers as well. Can't remember if he's a free agent or not, but those are the type of guys I would have been looking at in the offseason. I would have been like, okay, I'll address that in the offseason, keep my draft pick, and then on top of that, I could just find a backup power forward here and there. But that's just kind of my take on it. It's just like, okay, you traded it for a backup. It's not that hard to find a backup. And then on top of that, this is a backup with a lot of risk associated with them. It's a high reward, but it's also a very high risk as well. So that's why I'm not really on board with this. And, keeping that in concert with the fact that, you got Tobias Harris, you got Reggie Jackson without giving up that pick. Now giving up that pick for backups, I'm just like, not loving it, but, I do like the player. So, like I said, I'm going to trust in Stan Van Gundy. I'm just going to hope that, at number 16, we don't get the next Jimmy Butler getting drafted by somebody, because then I'll probably just blow my brains out.
And the thing, too, though, especially with those later picks, then we'd be assuming that Van Gundy would even – I mean, if someone falls to 16, people have been sleeping on him. Jimmy, Draymond in the second round –
mm-hmm.
Even if, the pick that we give up in that potential slot is a good player, we can't even say for sure Van Gundy would have drafted that guy. We'll see, man. I do think what we both agree on is the skill set is nice. 7'1", 40% 3-point shooter. Will the pick come back to hunt us? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, guys. When we return, we're going to do a little All-Star talk. Last weekend was, to me, one of the best All-Star weekends in quite some time. I'm going to get Kevin's thoughts on that. I'm going to give my spiel in the dunk contest. Like I said, we got the all-time Pistons Dream Team. It's an All-Star edition of the Pistons from center to point guard, who was the best if you're constructing? And, well, I'll word this to you like this, Kev, because when we talked about this, I didn't quite put it, in the best terms. I just said pick your all-star team. It doesn't have to necessarily be like the best center of all time, the best power forward. It's kind of like if you were constructing a dominant team for the Pistons, who would you have at the 1 through 5? So, you might be looking for mesh. You might not want all scorers. You might not want all defenders. It's if you were constructing like the perfect Pistons team, who would you be having? Who would you have at positions 1 through 5? So we'll be right back after a short break, a little all-star talk. We're going to put Kevin in the lie detector test and a whole bunch more on the Count That Baby in the File podcast. Jerry Mallory here for the Count That Baby in the File podcast. Your ad can be placed right here. It's simple. ctbpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to do a little business with us, we'll put your ad here. Maybe we'll mention it at the beginning. The Detroit Sports Podcast Network is known for this, and our listeners are real faithful to the companies that we support. So send us an email, and let's make it happen. All right, that was Kevin's favorite rapper, Drake. His favorite rapper, his favorite producer. I was talking to Kevin last week, and he's like, Drake has the best beats. He's one of the best rappers of all time. So I had to, in dedication to Kevin, I had to put
exact opposite.
I had to put a little Drake on there for him. We're back on the hindsight here. He did say the complete 180 of that, so I had to mess with him there. Let's talk a little All-Star, Kev. We did the dish with the Pistons in the trade. What were your thoughts? First of all, we'll save the dunk contest for a second. That was the highlight. I don't care. Kobe, great. Dunk contest was the highlight. So let's first talk about the runner-up. Kobe Bryant's last All-Star hurrah, the actual game. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, it was great seeing Kobe out there, but then again, it kind of reminded me a lot of Shaq's last All-Star game, and of course, Michael Jordan's last All-Star game. And that it was a little sad to see them,
Yeah, we're getting old, man.
Yeah, that's it. I know. It's kind of funny, isn't it, that we saw people we remember when Kobe came into the NBA, but we've watched his whole career.
Right.
So. But like I say, you look at some of these greats in their last All-Star appearances, and it's a little sad sometimes just to see them like as a shell of themselves and remember how great they are. But it still was good to see them out there. To see them as one of the all-time greats, like top 10 player all time, just about. I'm saying off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure I got Kobe in my top 10. All time.
Jake, don't go attacking us with your basketball reference, man. This is just,
I know.
He's just saying probably top 10.
That's why I have to say off the top of my head. I have to put that caveat there, but he's definitely an all-time great. So it's always, good to see kind of the last hurrah, kind of see the farewell tour thing going on right now. So it was great seeing Kobe out there. And if you remember his first All-Star game, where he made Karl Malone mad. Oh, man, that was hilarious.
Yep.
I always remember from that All-Star game, Kobe had the throw and a behind-the-back hook shot. That was like one of his first buckets that he made that entire game.
Right.
And just, and then just to see it come full circle here, Yeah. And, so it brings back a lot of memories, gives you a very nostalgic feeling just watching him.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. Seeing that. Like you said, it's a little sad. It's like, man, I'm getting old. LeBron James, who's pretty much our age, he's not young anymore, man. It's like you're young your whole. This is what I always say, Kev. You're young your whole life until you're no longer young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're young the first whatever years, and so your whole life all you know is young. You're the young guy, and then you're not young anymore, and that's where LeBron James is at. That's where we're at, just with life in general. But there's advantages, wisdom, and different things like that. We're growing up too, so it's not all doom and gloom. Random Kobe story. You pretty much echoed my exact sentiments as far as his All-Star game. I was in New York a couple years ago, and dude, I thought I was like 95% sure I was playing FIFA at the Toys R Us store with Kobe Bryant. Now, I'm sitting there. It was the week of the draft, like the 2014 draft, and I'm in New York, and I go to the Toys R Us store, and I look, or was it? I don't know what store it was. I'm pretty sure it was the Toys R Us store. They got a real big one there, and it's a dude like 6'6", got the bean head, and he's playing FIFA. I'm like, guy looks like Kobe, and I'm like 30, 40 feet away, and people are kind of looking, and I get closer. And you know how it is, like if someone looks like someone, but once you get close, you can kind of decipher if it's that person or not. Especially Kobe.
Yeah.
Especially Kobe. I mean, we've seen Kobe our whole lives. We have a basketball podcast. We know what Kobe Bryant looks like. We have a great idea of his height, his weight. It's not like it's Kobe Bryant, man. I'm literally like 10 feet from him now. I still don't know if this is Kobe or not. That's how much it looks like him, dude. But he had on like Adidas. I'm like, well, I don't think Kobe's with Adidas. He had like the Adidas sweatsuit. It may have been even like, I don't know, just a random.
He was initially with Adidas, but then he went to Nike later on.
Yeah, he was initially with Adidas, and it may have just been one of those random sweatsuits with like 2 stripes instead of 3. I don't know for sure. I'm looking at him now. I pick up the controller. I'm playing FIFA, so I'm literally shoulder to shoulder with this guy.
Did he speak?
He didn't say. I was waiting for him to say something. I'm like,
you
okay.
Said something to him, man.
I was nervous, dude. I was nervous.
Man, good shot or something,
bro.
Just to hear his voice.
I was nervous. I kid you not. I was I was too nervous I wanted to say like something or ask or like. I'm
so crazy. I probably would have just been like, "Hey, are you Kobe?
Are you?" I get weird like that, man. I don't want to. And we're going to get a little bit off subject. Same year, same time, like when I met James Ahedibo, but I wasn't sure who he was or what his name was, but I knew he was a football player. And for the line, I thought he was Joik Bell for a second, but I wasn't 100% sure. I'll tell you that one in just a second. So I'm like shoulder to shoulder with this dude, and it's like I still didn't know if it was Kobe. And in fact, that he was playing FIFA because Kobe is a soccer person. And
he loves FIFA.
And he loves, yeah. So I'm like,
I've heard that he loves playing FIFA.
I'm sitting here like, and people are kind of looking at him and stuff too. I'm like, dude, am I playing? And here's the only reason I knew it wasn't Kobe, because I said, okay, I'm about to go online. And if he's like on one of the New York late night shows, then I was just playing FIFA with Kobe Bryant. That's how much the dude looked like him. Same height, weight. But actually, Kobe had appeared on Jimmy Kimmel, I think like that night or the night after or something, which is they shoot that in L.A. So that aside from that, dude, that's how much the dude looked like Kobe Bryant. It was crazy. It was crazy. Now and I'll make it quick. With James Ahedibo, on my way to New York, I'm sitting there, and we're about to get on the flight, and I see this guy, and he is like about 6'1", like literally like a 20-inch waist, impeccable shape. I'm like, okay, this is a football player, no question about it. This guy is a football player, and this is right when James Ahedibo signed with us. So it's like, I've seen James Ahedibo before, but he wasn't a Lion officially yet, so I wasn't quite 100% sure. And he was kind of looking like Joik Bell for some reason, even though they don't really look alike. They're both. And I kind of pulled the move that
dread though, man.
Yeah, no dread. But I'm like maybe Joik shaved his head in the off season. I kind of pulled the move that people pull like. If it's outside of your race, some people, black people, you guys look the same, or some people say white people look the same. I kind of pulled that move, even though I'm black, and just because they're both dark skinned, and I'm like, so I actually, I boarded the plane, and we end up sitting next to each other. I still don't really know. I'm thinking it's Joik Bell, and so. We sit down and we kind of nod heads and everything, and then I think we just had like a little brief thing, and I think he asked me what was I going to New York for. I was kind of like for business. I asked him. He said, "Yeah, I'm kind of going for business, for NFL draft business and whatnot." And I said, I knew it was a Lion at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Hey man, so who do you think you guys are going to draft?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." And so I'm still kind of thinking it's Joik Bell, so I kind of laugh. I say, "Well, I know you don't want a running back, right?" And he looked, and he said, "No, I don't want a running back." He said, "I'm thinking I'm thinking like Sammy Watkins would be, good, kind of like him. And he put his hand out. He said James the head of Detroit Lions, and I'm like, oh yeah, James. I'm acting like I know,
I know it was you.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, James, how you doing? He was a nice guy. I didn't bother him too much. We talked a little bit. He kind of dissed Delmas a little bit, and not dissed him, but he was just saying how he's different. But that was my brush. I actually sat next to a guy that actually was someone. I wasn't sure if it was him, and it was him. Then the other guy I thought was Kobe. And it was a crazy weekend. So we've just wasted a lot of time talking about something not pertaining to the All-Star game. But hey, that's the beauty of the podcast. Sometimes.
And unfortunately, I got to tell one super quick one.
Yeah, man, you got to go for it, man. Hey, take your time. Man. This is free form. Do your thing.
No, this one was actually super quick. This was about 2000.
Well, make it at least 15 seconds so I can sip this beer.
Yeah. About 2010, I believe. I was with a couple of my buddies hanging out. We walked inside this bar, and I saw this guy, looked like he was about maybe 5'10", 5'11", but he was kind of solid, but not real solid.
Right.
And I looked, and we had been sipping a little bit, so I told my boys, hey, man, I think that's Allen Iverson, right? And we downtown Detroit, right? This is when Iverson was on the Pistons. This was actually right after the season.
Right.
So I'm wondering why he's not. I'm wondering, why is he here? I'm thinking, okay, he only played for us that one season. And I remember he signed with Turkey. So I was like, I'm getting closer. I'm like, man, this Iverson, man. This guy looked just like Iverson. So I walked up to him. I'm like, hey, man, how you doing? And he, gave him a handshake. He gave me a handshake. And I said, what you doing, man? I thought you were supposed to be in Turkey. And then when he smiled, and he didn't hear what I said, he said, what? Because the music was loud.
Right.
And then when he smiled, I saw he had this huge gap in his tooth. And that's when I said, oh, Lord, this is not Allen Iverson. So I forgot what I said. Something else, he couldn't hear me, and I just kind of said, oh, never mind. I think people thought that, maybe I was just a nice guy, just, saying hi, talking to people.
Oh, man.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about. You walk up to somebody like, "Oh man, is that them? Is that them?" And you get there like, "Ah, no, that's not really."
Yeah, and it's like you see somebody on TV for years, but I guess it's nothing like seeing them in person. You know what I mean? Like even though you know what they look like, when you're in person. And the funny thing is, and maybe we'll even do a segment about this. Kevin worked at the airport for a number of years, so the number of run-ins that he had with celebrities, whether it be Ashley Larry or this or the great Khali, is we can have a whole podcast just on that alone. Kevin's run-ins. So that's our little spiel on our fake run-ins with celebrities, our run-ins with guys we didn't know that we thought, and et cetera. So back to the All-Star game. The dunk contest. I actually talked about the dunk contest a little bit on the Lions show that I do, because it was that good. Kev, what were your thoughts, man? We were sitting there, and give us your thoughts. I'll give you my thoughts, and I'll tell you the blunder that I made. Kevin was in attendance at my house. A couple of fellas we had, and I did the ultimate DVR sin. But what were your thoughts on the dunk contest, Kev?
We're gonna try to forget about the DVR sin, but my first thought was, wow, this is a dunk contest between two people. It was like, okay, Will Barton and Andre Drummond had no business whatsoever in that dunk contest.
Oh, my goodness, man.
Much as I love both those guys, got Will Barton on my fantasy team. And, of course, Andre Drummond is Andre Drummond. That's my dude. But Andre Drummond reminded me of when Stackhouse was in the dunk contest, the historic one with Vince Carter. And it's kind of fitting that we had Pistons in two historic dunk contests that both, were horrible. And
guess who will remember those guys in the dunk contest? Only people from Detroit, because they are just so insignificant in the whole scale of the actual event,
Yeah, so definitely. I think Andre Drummond was really nervous, and I think that's what messed him up. He really looked nervous the whole time, and then he just got tired, because he had to keep attempting his dunks over and over again. But just I thought it was going to be a foregone conclusion that this was going to be Zach LaVine's bid to take. Just kind of like 3-point contest. I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Steph was going to take it. But man, Aaron Gordon showed out, man. I mean, he really showed out. Man, I was just mind blown. And to think about what it took for Zach LaVine to win, I mean, that's something I never thought I'd see somebody jump from the free throw line and put the ball between their legs. But Also, never thought I'd see somebody, jump and put the ball between both their legs,
Chair.
or under both their legs.
Chair Gordon, man. Chair Gordon, dude.
Yeah, I'm saying, man, like this one was insane, just amazing. And I was one of those people who kind of, got to the point where I was like, man, dunk contests are boring. They've pretty much done everything, but they keep just amazing me. People keep doing more and more things. Like Aaron Gordon, I thought he was very, very creative. Most of the time when guys use props, it's just really like, just spectacle. But the props, when he used props, it was actually very helpful to what he was actually doing. So he used the props the way it should be used, So, and it just, I just thought this dunk contest was completely mind-blowing.
I agree, man. And Kenny Smith every year says the dunk contest is back. He's been saying that since Vince Carter 15 years ago, and it's never been true. This year, when he said it, it was like true. Like this was the best dunk contest in 15 years. Amazing, 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 amazing. One of the few times, I hate the whole tie, everybody wins thing. This was one of the few times where I would have been okay if they made it a tie. Now, 2 sidebars. Yeah. Before I talk about my blunder, I think one of the underrated funny moments at my house, because we had what was called basketball overload, was my buddy Will. Now, this is my guy, okay? I'm about to dog him out. He was the best man. He was the best man in my wedding. Loved the guy like a brother. However, this dude, like, he literally just did not care. Every single dunk he had literally no reaction to it, man. He literally had not amused at anything. He was not. It was the quintessential. I'm an old man, and this is not as good as it was when I wasn't an old man, like of all time. And the thing that would kill me, he kept asking me to rewind, man. Like, play it back. I want to see it. Like, he would ask me to rewind, and he would be even less amused. We created a meme in our little group thing that we do of Abe Simpson, and Abe Simpson is a meme where he just has zero reaction, zero amusement, and that's what we've created with our buddy Will. Like, this was like one of the best dunk contests ever. He literally just looked at the screen like these guys were laying up and missing.
The funniest thing about Will was the fact that keep in mind, it was 8 of us there, and every dunk that Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine did, we all went nuts, jumping around, screaming, and every single one he just deadpanned. Like, it wasn't even a thing where he kind of like, oh wow, that was nice. I mean, he literally deadpanned every single one and said rewind it. Man, that's not that impressive. It's like, what?
I wouldn't want to. When I replayed the one with the chair, or not chair literally, but when he looked like he was sitting in a chair mid-air, Eric Gordon, 2 legs, I'm like, Will, what do you think about that one? That's impressive. Could you do that one? And the thing about Will, too, like, we'll add, he's about 6 foot. And it was funny. Like, it was like a football team in my house. You're about 6. Well, Theron, if you're listening, just we're giving approximate heights, okay? Just
we're calling Theron 6'4.5". How about that?
Yeah, we're giving approximate heights. So Theron was here, one of our buddies. He's about 6'4.5". I'm like 6'3". You're about 6'1", 6'2". Our buddy Jake is like 6'6". My young buddy that was here, Alfred, is like 6'2", and then Will, he's like 6'5". Will, in his heyday, man, he could dunk. Okay, I used to, I could get up, I could windmill and do some nice things. Will, I mean, he was the best dunker I've seen just from like the average dude. He could fly, man. And so, yeah, maybe he is a little bit of a harsh critic. And I'm like, Will, could you do that? Like some of the dunks, he was, I could do that, or I could have done that. And so when I asked him about Eric Gordon, and I'm like, dude, what do you think about that one? Could you do that? Oh, I wouldn't want to do it. It was stupid. I'm like, come on, man. He literally had the most deadpan, unamused, not phased reaction to like the best dunk contest literally in 15 years. Now, my ultimate sin, I'm pretty good at this, man. I've been in the DVR game for a while. I was on DVR like back when TiVo first came out. Back in 01, 02. Like, I'm a pioneer of this thing, which makes this even worse. I should know better. So I'm taping the game or the All-Star festivities for the weekend, and We play a little NBA 2K, so we're behind, which I like doing. I like being behind a little bit. That way we can just fast forward through the commercials. We usually catch up toward the end. So I did the whole record thing. I did not hit the auto extend, and we missed the last 3 dunks. We missed 2 dunks. We missed 2 dunks from Levine and 1 from Gordon. We had to go online. I could only imagine.
Instagram GIFs.
Dude, I could only imagine, like, because when Gordon did the one with the chair, I literally jumped up and started running around,
Yeah.
If we all together collectively, because it's a buzz when you're watching it together like that, I killed the buzz. I hate that I did. I was a bad host at that instant. I totally screwed up. I dropped the ball. It was worse.
You were a good host overall, so we all had an awesome time.
And I definitely, I appreciate that. But imagine man, if we would have all just collectively saw the dunk from the free throw line between the legs, like live and together on the big screen,
oh my goodness.
You know what? My wife is probably glad we did. I'm probably glad because I would have been in the doghouse. We may have started just throwing stuff, man, just randomly pick up the. We probably would have started mosh. We probably would have created a mosh pit in here, man. Seriously.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think we would have created a mosh pit, and we would have broke several items. So like you said, one of the best. In a long time, one of the best ever. And it's going to be hard to top it, but those 2 guys are young. They're creative. I won't count them out. It's appointment TV next year, man. I think the ratings will probably be through the roof to see what these 2 guys can bring to the table. We got a couple more things, Kev, before we get out of here. We mentioned the dream team. If you were assembling your perfect Detroit Pistons starting lineup, give me your guys. Give me your 1 through 5. Give me the position and give me the player.
Okay, so one of them is a no-brainer, of course. Point guard is Isaiah Thomas. I don't even think I need to explain why.
Right.
But my shooting guard I had to think about for a little bit.
I did too, man.
Yeah, it's not just a foregone conclusion that you choose Joe Dumars. You had another. Richard Hamilton was another really good one. Allen Houston as well. Had a couple guys, but I did eventually settle on Joe Dumars as my 2 guard just because of his defense. One thing about Joe is that if you remember, Michael Jordan always said that he guarded him tougher than anybody.
Right, yeah.
So that type of defender I want on my team. And I also need him for floor spacing because of who my center is. But so then small forward, I went with our buddy, Grant Hill.
Oh, yeah, you got to go with G-Money.
Yeah, you got to go with G-Money.
Shout out to Dave Bing, but, come on.
Yep. I think it's Grant Hill, man. Grant Hill would have been an all-time great had he not, screwed up his ankle.
I agree. I think we're going to dedicate a good chunk of a summer show, like when it's a little bit slower, to just how good Grant Hill could have been, should have been, would have been, for sure.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one, a good topic to talk about. And then at power forward, I actually went with Rasheed because once again I had to go with floor spacing and also because of defense, and finally, of course, my center is Big Ben. I mean, even in today's NBA, where offensively he would just be non-existent, but we've never seen a player like Ben who could affect the game and impact the game without scoring the way he did, just by rebounding and defense. We've seen Jason Kidd, dominate games with, just his passing, but we've never seen a guy like Ben Wallace who just rebounding and defense dominated games. I think he was such a game changer. You have to have him. And then next to Rasheed was the perfect fit for him because Rasheed, was able to guard the other team's best big and allow Ben to roam. So that's what I want. I want that law firm of Wallace & Wallace, the no-fly zone back, and I want my backcourt, Joe D and Isaiah Thomas, and, of course, I want my man Grant Hill as my small forward. That's my all-time Pistons all-star team.
Dude, we were almost lockstep. I was about to say, were you cheating and looking at my notes, man? We are lockstep on 4 out of the 5. Yeah, Isaiah Lord Thomas, man. I mean, don't really even have to go any further than that. It's Isaiah. It's Zeke, man, the guy. And I will say this. I think his game is one of those games that would have transcended. He would have been, if Isaiah got dropped into 2016, he'd be one of the best at point guard right now. Even at 6 feet or however tall he was, his game would have transcended. I had the same deliberations with Joe Dumars. As good as he is on defense, he's 6'3". I'm like, man, he would definitely be undersized in today's NBA. But ultimately, I did go with Joe D. Even back then, there were guys taller than him, but it didn't stop him from being a premier defender. And, the chemistry with him and Zeke, like you say, the floor spacing. So I went with Joe D as well. At the 3, Grant Hill. Grant Hill, man, dynamic. That first step was a killer. Nothing you can do with it. At the 4, I got Rasheed Wallace as well, man. Like you say, floor spacing. And then, too, when you're building a super team like this, you kind of want a guy that is not going to be ball dominant. I mean, you got some scorers, man. Rasheed's type of player, if he was surrounded by Zeke and Joe D and Grant, he wouldn't mind putting up 9 points and 7 rebounds. They would be the best 9 points and 7 rebounds you would ever get, though. You see what I mean?
You actually think about it, Grant Hill would have been the same way.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, when I was looking at this team, I'm like, I want guys, too. You got so many good personalities. Or not good personality, but just you got so many personalities and key players. You want guys that would be cool with not getting all the points, spreading the wealth and type of things like that. So Rasheed fits that mold. Now for me, I thought about Big Ben, I thought about Lambeer, man. Bob Lanier, I had to go with Bob Lanier.
I cannot blame you for that.
Yeah, I mean, he.
Solid pick.
When he was doing his thing, man, 24, 14, and 3 blocks, he wasn't the same type of defender like roaming as Ben Wallace, but he was a great defender. He was like, lockdown post defender. I do like how you mentioned, though, like with Ben and Rasheed, how they bounced off each other. But Dauber, I think the Dauber would have been our top scorer out of all of these guys. You would give it to him in the post, and he's scoring, and he was a great rebounder. And I knew he was a good rebounder. I had to double check. So I'm like, okay, if I'm not gonna go with Ben, I got to at least have a guy that can board. This guy, consistently got 13 boards a game, 14 boards a game. So, I love both lineups. They're pretty similar. Only difference is you got Big Ben, and I've got Bob Lanier. So definitely the Pistons. We've got a story franchise. Our starting 5 would rival most teams. I think the only teams that, we don't really match up with would be like your Celtics, your Lakers. 76ers have had some really good players come through. But after those 3, Houston's had some good teams. But we're right in the upper echelon. If you're talking about like a collective amount of players, the Pistons are right there, man.
Yeah, definitely.
You ready? You ready to hop into the lie detector? Last time it was me. This time it was you. This time it is you. For those of you that are not familiar with the lie detector test, it's simple. There are 3 questions. Kevin is in the lie detector this time. He has not had an opportunity to prepare for these questions. I'm going to ask him these things. He can give me a true or false, and then he'll elaborate briefly. At the end of his answer, he will either get a false or a truth. It will be a drop. And that will determine if the lie detector agreed with him or not. So, Kevin, we now have got you in, and it's time. You ready, man? You nervous?
Oh, yeah. I'm ready.
All right.
Nah, man. He's a cucumber.
Question number 1. Tobias Harris is one of the top – this is currently – Tobias Harris is one of the top 2 players on the Pistons.
Top 2?
Top 2.
Wow. I will go with a very reluctant false. I still think that the Pistons, we live and die by our point guard play, by Reggie Jackson. And, of course, Andre Drummond is a big man in the middle. We need his rebounding. We need his defense. We need his interior scoring. We need his energy and his dominance. So I think that, as good as Tobias is going to be, I'm still going to slightly give the edge to Reggie and Drummond.
The results on this is inconclusive. I kind of struggle. I kind of gave you a question I struggled with answering myself. I kind of said whichever way you went, I wouldn't argue with, because these 3 guys are, man, they're all pretty close. They're all pretty close.
Yeah.
And whoever you kind of want to mix and mangle. But you know what? I'm going to pick a side. I'll give you the truth. I'll give you that one.
Tell the truth.
I'll give you that. And the reason is because although they are all so close in my opinion in terms of their talent, two guys play positions that are a little bit more important, center and point guard, as opposed to Tobias. Very good, but he plays a position that, in my opinion, is not as important. Your point guard and your center are crucial. So it's really close. I'll give you the slight truth on that one. All right, now moving on to the next one. So Stan Van Gundy has been the swindler, okay? And if you remember, Joe Dumars was a swindler. The thing about creating lopsided trades is once teams start to get a whiff of that, it's kind of hard to keep doing it. Teams shy away from trade. It happened to Joe D. The question is, teams will start being leery of trading with Stan Van Gundy after the fleecings of the last 2 years, acquiring Tobias and Reggie Jackson.
I will say true. I really think that, just like with Joe Dumars, we've heard that they got to the point where teams just wouldn't want to trade with him because they were so scared of getting getting the short end of the stick. I do think that Jeff Bowers and Stan have shown now that they have a real talent for, getting really, really good foundational pieces or just really, really good pieces without giving much of anything up, without giving up anything of real value other than the first round pick. So, yeah, I think teams will get a little leery when they call and they say, hey, I'll give you bench player A and bench player B for this particular player who you don't really like. They'll probably say, wait. Maybe we got something a little more here.
All right, I'm looking at the test. The whatever O-graph, whatever stethograph, I don't know what it's called. Whatever the thing is doing is moving up and down, and the results are...
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
You have been proven true on this one. I mean, it's simple, man. You keep fleecing guys, and teams will start getting leery, almost to the point where it's like, man, why do you want to trade away this player? Why do you want, Bill Belichick goes through that now. People second guess. Like, if he's trying to get a player from your team, people are like, well, maybe I should keep him if Bill Belichick is trying to trade for him. You know what I mean? And so it goes both ways in terms of you might, if he's asking for a player, you might kind of want to start keeping him as well as what he's trading away. Even if you like him, maybe it's not as good. All right. The third question is always a curveball, usually not pertaining to the Pistons. It's just something random. And so, Kevin, the one for this week, we've been talking about this kind of, particularly with our one buddy Theron. But now we're going to throw this question to you. And for those of you that don't know, me and Kevin have both suffered some pretty bad knee injuries. I've had 3 torn ACLs. Kevin has had his share of knee injuries. And at one time, just like Mr. Will, we could fly. I think Will can still dunk. Now, the thing is, Will is like 10 years older than all of us. He can still dunk. I hate to admit it, I can no longer dunk after my second ACL. It took. I came really close. The rumor has it when I would go up for rebounds, people said I got up high enough to dunk, but I have not dunked since my second ACL tear. I have not got up since and actually did it since my second ACL, since my third when I know there's no chance. Kevin used to get up, throw it down, dunk himself. Since the knee injury, he has not been able to. Both of us still can get out there on the court and perform. Don't get it wrong. We've modified our game. Kevin, the question to you is, Kevin Evans, and he's 31. You're 31, right, Kev?
Yes, sir.
Kevin Evans, 31, bad knees, will dunk a 10-foot NBA regulation-sized basketball rim again.
Wow. I mean, my brain...
My mind's telling me no!
My heart is telling me, yes, you will lose a little weight. Yes, you will do some rehab. You will fix your knee. But my head is telling me, no, I'm just going to get older. I might get a little slimmer if I work out more, but I think I'm going to have to go with the false. Hopefully I'll get to grab the rim again, but I think my ducking days are over.
All right,
After I've been thinking, I think they're over.
The machine is going crazy on this one, and we've got
false.
Here it is, Kevin. If you don't think you can ever dunk again, if you don't ever dunk again, and you do all this rehab, the chance is I may never dunk again, and I'm not willing to live with that. I'm getting selfish on you. If you feel like, we got the same issues, we both trying to lose weight, and this and that. If you feel like it will never happen again for you, then it probably will never happen again for me. And my head is trying to tell me that it's head versus heart. My heart, which they have said can be treacherous, is winning. And in my heart, I feel like one day I will dunk a basketball again. I don't care if it's I'm 40. I will dunk a basketball 10 foot again. And so the reading is false, because if I can do it, you can do it. If you can't do it, I can't do it. So me, you, Theron, Will, who I think still is dunking, we all will dunk a 10-foot basketball rim.
You've established, has Theron ever actually dunked?
Yeah, and that's for another episode. We've mentioned two of our buddies, Theron and Jake, on this show quite a bit. Great basketball minds. I've even talked about trying to do something with them. I think they would be welcome additions. There's a rumor when we were doing this whole thing with our height, and Theron kept saying he was shorter than what he was. We're like, dude, you're like 6'4.5". Man, there's no way. He's like, no, I'm only 6'3" or something. And my theory was, well, Theron, you've never dunked before, and you don't. At 6'3", it's kind of like, you should be able to, but you can't. But at 6'4", it's like, dude, you never dunked and you're 6'4". That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's my theory on why a guy as tall as Theron would say he's shorter than what he is. So, and then when we were at the house and he said, oh, I've dunked before, he didn't have Theron is a very smart guy. He speaks eloquently. He speaks definitively. He has an art of persuasion. When he speaks on things, especially when he's confident, you feel it. When he said he dunked before, I didn't feel any of that, Kevin.
I didn't either. It was no details and that. It was like, oh yeah, it was around this time and around this day. I was around this age, and I got up there on maybe it was 9.5 feet rim, and I was on a trampoline. I don't know.
It was the weakest I could dunk. Now listen, that's a big moment in someone's life. I remember the first time we talk about it. I know how old I was. I know that it was with a girl's basketball first, then a man's basketball. I know about how tall. He was just like, yeah, I've dunked before. Like, if someone ever told me I couldn't dunk ever, I'd be like, dude, no, this is how old I was. I'd be calling up references. I'd be like, hey, call this person, call that person. I think I got a couple videos of me dunking. He came real weak with it, man. He's like, I dunk. Especially a guy as confident as he is, a guy as and I respect that aspect of him. He's very good with words, and he speaks, and he speaks with a bit of authority, zero authority, and so the way he weakly kind of limped into the admission that he dunked before made me believe that no, he has never dunked before. Hey Kevin, we're a little over time, so let's do this real quick. 5 more games left. We are now 27-28. How do you think the Pistons would do the next 5 games just for this month? I know there may be another game or two in March before our actual show, but what did you have now? I actually just did February. If you did up into our next show, that's fine too. What do you got for your record?
No, I just did the rest of March. Rest of February. So I was thinking, what do we have, 5 games left? So I was thinking actually 1-4. I know we got Toronto coming up. I know we got San Antonio coming up, and I know we got the Sixers, and I forget who the other 2 are, but
Pelicans and Cavs.
Pelicans on Sunday, and there's one other team I'm forgetting, but
Cavaliers.
I think it's just gonna be growing pains. I think the Sixers is pretty much an automatic win no matter what, but I think it's gonna be growing pains, especially playing 2 of the premier teams in the NBA in Toronto and San Antonio. I think that this is what I expected. When you're changing the dynamic of the team so drastically, especially they haven't even gotten Monte Eunice and Marcus Thornton into the mix yet. So, I think they're going to struggle for the next couple games.
All right, Kev. I got them going at, everything you just said, I can't argue it. I could definitely see it happening. I got them going at 3-2. And here's why. I think we find a way to win. It's the first home game with the new guys. I think the crowd will definitely be behind us. That's a home game against the Pelicans, right? Yep. And so I think that from that standpoint, we'll find a way to win. It's Tobias's debut, maybe Monte Eunice. Thornton is hot, man. He's one of those guys. We didn't talk about him much. He's so streaky. I think with a packed house, he's reunited with Jeff Bauer. Jeff Bauer is the guy that drafted him originally. He said he was glad to play with a guy that understands, what he does best. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had a huge game. And so I got us winning that one. Philly, that's it's Philly, so you always got them winning that. Cleveland lost. I think we'll lose to Milwaukee. It's a road game. And then that fifth game, it's the swing one for me. It's at home, man. About 4 games, 5 games. Now you're getting a little comfortable with Toby and Monty Eunice. It's a statement game. It's at home. Toronto has been embarrassing you and beating you. I think we find a way in a thrilling overtime fashion to win that game. Go 3-2.
Oh, wow. Overtime.
Yep, in overtime. Go 3-2, and then it will end up at 30-30 to end February. Hey, Kev, this has been a fun show, man. We talked about fake Kobe Bryants. We talked about fake Allen Iversons, but most importantly, we talked about the Pistons, man. Any last words before we get out of here?
No, man, all I have to say is that, it's going to be a fun rest of the season. Hopefully our guys can pull it together and we can sneak into those playoffs, even though we'll probably end up an AC obliterated by Cleveland. Well, let's at least get in there. So I think we're going to probably just barely slide into that AC, but if not, I'll just tell everybody, don't be too disappointed, because the moves that Stan Van Gundy made are going to make us exponentially better, even as soon as next year. So, yeah, it's just going to be a fun season. Just look forward to it.
I'm with you on that, man. Hey, guys, as always, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, Podbay, iTunes. I do a Lion Show Hindsight 20 every Monday. Check that out. We'll be back the first Saturday in March. Until then, I'm Kevin. No, I'm not Kevin. He's Kevin. I'm Jerry. We'll be back the first Saturday. It's the Count That Baby in the File podcast. We are out.